Hi everybody. So, how time flies. It's been 12 months, just a little over actually, since I got this, which is the Neptune Pro 3 from Elegoo. And I've been running it through its paces for the last 12 months. Now, somebody said to me, and I agree with them, very often the problem with these things is somebody will do an unboxing and review, and then you never hear from them again. Well, I did 6 months, and now we're at 12 months, how that machine is actually performed. And if you're a follower of the channel, you'll know I do a lot of 3D printing these days. One print a day at least, but I'm doing a lot of 3D printing, so that really has been through its paces. Despite that, I consider myself an utter novice. I mean, almost exclusively I'm using PLA. Now, I use PLA because it's the de facto standard. Also, my printers are in my house, and PLA doesn't give off any smell where ABS does. There is also a degree of biodegradability about PLA. So PLA has been the material that I almost exclusively print from. Mostly, I suppose, because I'm making models and it doesn't really matter that much. Now, I'm trying PETG to see if I can print some transparent lenses, and that's how far I've got. If I actually get this perfected, of course, there'll be a video. But there are people out there who have done a far broader range of materials than I ever have, and have also done a better job than I probably ever will do. So it's quite a versatile machine, really. It's just that I'm giving you caveats to tell you what it is I've been doing, so you'll know what my experience is and how to judge the machine based on that experience. So I have to say I've had extraordinarily little problems with it, and of course that's one of the things that, what do you say, there's been no real problems. There have been some, but I've put those mostly down to my experience. So for instance, I got to rely on them, so I'd set a print going and I'd just basically go to bed, and in the morning it would be fine. But after about 6 months use or so, I got a clog one evening, and when I got up and came down the next morning, there was plastic absolutely everywhere and it jammed up the head, and I thought, oh crikey. But replacing that head, cleaning that plastic, turned out to be an absolute piece of cake. On the head there's a couple of screws, those screws undo, you get straight to the hot end unscrews, and I picked all the plastic off and screwed it back together, and the thing worked again. Somebody also said that's a good reason for having a camera pointed at it and a telephone app so you can keep your eye on it. But you can't do that when you're asleep, and if you happen to be in Edinburgh, what's the point, because you're not going to get back quickly. But even so, keeping an eye on it seems to be one of those things that's a good idea to do, so that if you do get a clog, and I've had about, I think about a dozen clogs over the year, where it sort of squeezes out a little bit, stops the printing, and you have to stop it, raise it, and pick it off. They have incidentally cured that in the Neptune 4s, because if that happens and the hot end gets a little bit hotter than it should, the firmware stops it. And so the clog just sits at the hot end as a little clog, and you can pick it off. But you will get occasionally a clog or two, as I have done. There is a problem as well with the area that the model has on the print bed, because the print sticks to the print bed courtesy of this surface. It's a rough surface that helps adhesion of the print. But it won't help that much if the base of the print is small in relation to the size of the print. So if I'm doing something like that, what I tend to do is add a little washer to it. I put a washer in the actual drawing, so it's got a much bigger footplate, and that helps it to stick. On the first print that I print, I tend to print small prints because the hot plate is situated right in the middle there, and it heats up this aluminium bed, and the heat spreads out, making the rest of the bed warm. If you try to print a large print on your first print, it's probably going to delaminate because the edges are actually cooler than the centre. Again, on these larger ones, what they've done is they've split the heat bed up, so there's actually two heat beds. There's one in the centre and one at the edge that heat differently and get a much more even heat bed temperature. There's one with the central heater. You have to wait for it to warm up a little bit before you actually print, if you're printing a large print that's going to come close to the edge of your print bed. So I discovered that through trial and error, and that did waste a few prints. But again, I don't think that's a problem with the machine per se. I think that's a problem with me as a learning experience more than anything. So I've had very little in the way of problems with the machines. I've got a habit of relying on it for it to be able to do something, and I've always found the Elegoo backup to be superb. Now, that's worried to say that because, of course, I'm showcasing their product. So yeah, they're going to give me good customer service. But I have had reports that other people have said that the customer service has been excellent. And so we've got a good machine giving good results with good customer service. And so I've been really happy with it as it continues to chug along post the 12-month period, despite a problem or two which I put down to me. Of course, the 3D printer market is exploding with a growth rate of somewhere between 18 and 22%, depending on who you read. And by 2028, it's expected to be worth about $50 billion, and that's only 5 years away. And of course, there are very good reasons for this, because 3D printing is no longer an emerging technology. It's not mature, but it's at that midpoint where a lot of work is going into it. Everybody can see the advantages of it, things like cost reduction, in-house development, prototyping, unusual machines, mechanisms, drug deliveries, all kinds of reasons why. And a few things still holding it back a little, but with manufacturers pressing forward at a rate of knots. Because remember, speed of print was once a huge problem. It's now nowhere near that problem, with benchmark speeds being in the sort of 500 to 600 millimeters per second print speed. That's just crazy when you think about it. It blew my mind when I was able to print something quicker than I was able to make it. And Elegoo seemed to me to be very much at the forefront. Now, one of the big holdbacks is the size. For a long time, the size of what you could print was really these much smaller ones. And of course, Elegoo brought out this Max and they brought out the Plus. And what they're aiming to do is bring out an even bigger version they're calling their Giga. Okay, it's basically a beast of a thing. The bed has 4 separate areas that automatically control, or you can manually control it, and it can add up to 3 extra nozzles to give you 4 nozzles in total. Of course, it has filament detection and power loss recovery, and it has adopted a new silent drive, whatever that means, but the graded nozzle can reach 300 degrees C, so you're going to be able to print some pretty cool things with this. The cables are all on Caterpillar tracks to keep everything nice and neat and tidy, and you could live in it. It's so enormous. Now, they're launching this via Kickstarter, and it's an upcoming project. I've put a link in the description for anybody who's actually interested in this, but I would give my back teeth to get hold of a review copy of something like that. But even not, I would seriously consider buying it, because I agree with them. It's thinking big, and this is tackling those remaining holdback problems. Now, I'm not surprised, because Elegoo is a pretty innovative company, and their products I've always found to be really good. But again, I have only really used Elegoo products, so comparing them to others, well, I'm not too sure about that. But certainly the stuff that I've had, I've been more than happy with them. I would certainly pick up one of those. Anyway, that's a quick review of how the Pro has been doing over its 12 months. Yes, I'll be doing other ones to tell you how the other ones are doing, what Elegoo is actually up to when it comes to the future. And it's kind of cool to think about the future of 3D printing, and we can imagine what it might be. But to see it coming to life, that's pretty cool. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.